Yeah. Hey, Sam, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hold on. Hold on.
You can hear now?
It's probably me. I made it. Yeah. Hey, Sam, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I think that's the delayed on the Zoom. Hold on a sec, guys. Yeah, I can hear you. That's the live link on our website. So.
Okay. So my question was, do we have a process or procedure for tonight for raising our hands or whatever?
I think that's the delayed on the Zoom. Hold on a second. Oh. Hold on.
Well, it's gonna have to be ready.
Okay, sorry, Nathan. I was trying to upload the link and it was like streaming back to me backwards. So everything was going like 3 times all at the same time. So sorry.
I got you.
I think what's going to happen is with Amanda, we said like before he says something, like the mayor says, I want to read blah, 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 ordinance 1, 2, 3. And then we'll say, and then he'll address the person, Nathan, please read. And then we'll stop and kind of go from there. I don't know any other way.
Okay. When we get to like discussion, does Rick want us to do something? What's kind of protocol for that?
Just a hand to the side of your face, I'll be watching you, and that way I'll know, and then I'll recognize people. Try to do it in the order that they hold their hand up, but without the little red lights.
No, that's fine. Perfectly acceptable.
Now, if I don't see somebody and you perceive that I'm going on or going forward, please say something. Okay? Amanda, I've got a question for you. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can.
On Bill 3118, that is the chamber contract.
Yes.
There is an amendment. It's on the agenda for Torgerson. Now I'm going to announce his resignation before the roll call. So I'll just ask Ted as the mayor pro tem to go ahead and read it. But I think, and Nathan, I hope is, I don't know if Nathan's hearing this, I hope so. Okay, he is. He has an amendment to offer, which you're aware of. So what's the proper way to do that? Is to read the first bill and then have Nathan make a comment that he would like to amend that or do that before he actually reads it, right? That's a procedural question. Do we have to take a vote of the Alderman to not deal with the original bill and to look at the amendment?
What will happen is the original bill will be opened up by a vote of the Alderman. So whoever is going to be the new sponsor to that, if it goes to Ted, then he would make a motion to entertain that bill and it would be seconded and voted on. And then once it's open for discussion, Nathan can make a motion to substitute the original contract with a amended contract. And then that will come back to
Okay.
a first reading at the next meeting.
At the next meeting? Okay. All right. All right, you got that, Nathan? Okay, we can't deal with it. We'll deal with it tonight, but the amended one will be first reading next meeting. For Amanda, okay. Hey, Chief.
How are you, Mayor?
I'm fine.
Good.
There he is. That was quite a report.
Wonderful.
I'm not surprised. Most of us have already thought that.
Okay.
Jason is the only, or Nathan is the only Alderman, Heather's.
Heather is working on her.
There's, what?
Heather's working on her camera.
Okay.
Okay, so I
Yeah,
just
we
asked
only
him.
have one before him, yeah.
Oh, there's Jason.
Cameron. There's me. There's Jason.
Jason.
We have Jason and Nathan.
Yes.
I think Jason's beard looks a little bit like I haven't left the house in weeks mode. It's getting a little rough, man.
And he's a candidate. And this is live stream.
All right, if he's in Canada, I'll cut him some slack then.
All right, good for Daniel.
Do they make this receiving cameras that?
Wait. Just make sure.
Absolutely amazing.
Real life, gonna do it. That's the plan at least. See if we can get her to do it.
We can just look at the chief's uniform, that's a pretty picture, right? A lot of red, white, and blue.
It'll work.
I have 7. I'm not rushing, we're gonna find it for a little bit. Okay, Bruce Galloway just texted me, he said link, I don't know what that means.
It was sent to his email today.
Send it to your email today.
You're gonna have to just put a freeze frame.
If we freeze frame, it'll do the same thing.
Do you have the ability to send that link to
There she is.
Bruce and Hannah, if need be?
I made it.
Okay, we've got 1, 2, 3.
And remember to mute yourself whenever when you don't need to.
Here.
Yeah.
And do I do here? No. Click.
She's got it right. I guess you put a picture up there, she can hold still.
There's kids in the laptop at the bottom, maybe.
What?
Oh, where it says the HP laptop, that might be, I don't know if that's Ted or not. For Bruce, one.
No, we have done.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna text Ted and Bruce, and see which one is HP laptop.
I'm HP laptop.
Oh, okay, great. Well, then we have a forum, just waiting for Bruce to figure it out.
You need to see Ted, like he needs to come on.
Ted, we have to see you. I'm being told, hearing you is not
There
sufficient.
you go. There you go. There you go.
Can you see me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Oh, there he is, okay. Thank you, Ted.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce is not logged in yet.
Bruce texted me and asked about where the link was.
Yes, me too. And today in his email, so,
And it was resent to him again.
and just resent a moment ago.
Do we look as small to everybody out there as we do on that screen?
Yeah, you see us there on the top row.
Yeah, I see it.
Hey, Bruce, have you found the link yet?
Where did Heather go?
Okay, no problem, just checking, thank you. He's found it, we'll be right there.
Not that one.
Anyway, you have to start about 10 minutes in advance. And everybody should get signed up, and then you start the meeting.
Yep. It's great, but it's gonna
To learn this stuff.
Who's there?
Okay, is it Bruce there on the far left bottom?
No, that's Heather.
Well, that's Heather, she
We've
just
lost
left.
Heather.
Okay, she's down the left. Oh, there she is. Okay. All right, well, we're waiting for Bruce. He's found his link and he's trying to get everything going here, so just be patient with us. Can the public hear us before we start? Okay. Public, if you're out there, we're trying to get our 5th Alderman online. So we will not call the meeting to order until he logs in.
She's in the waiting room.
Sam, did you find a flag?
Mhm.
Bless you.
I mean, several.
There we go.
It's gonna be several. We're
Okay,
gonna do our best.
are you gonna put it on full screen or share the screen? You be able to do that?
That's as best I can get.
Okay, that's good. All right, now is,
Can we see?
I'm looking for Bruce.
They're showing you something.
Oh, okay.
Their screen sharing.
Okay, so I just don't touch it.
Don't touch anything unless you
Unless
want
you're-
to turn yourself
You're
mute or
Right.
unmute.
Oh, okay.
not muted.
Bruce, we have to be able to see you for your vote to count. So not trying to hurry you, just letting you know that logging in is not enough.
You just need to turn on the video.
And then turn on your video. You know how to do that? Lower left-hand corner, you're muted also, I can see. So, lower left-hand corner is your audio, there you go, okay. Well, you can probably hear me, but you won't be able to talk, there you go.
I'm not seeing the, how to turn on the video. I just did one of these today. Oh, maybe up here.
It should be right next to the mute button. It may not be, but typically is. In my vast experience with 3 Zoom calls.
Well, honestly, no. Strange.
Bruce, are you on a computer or what are you on?
I'm on my phone.
Okay. I don't remember on the phone.
He has access, but he just has to figure out because I don't know what kind of phone he has. I don't think it's an
Well,
iPhone.
Bruce, had you found the button on the screen to turn to mute and to turn the mute off? If you found that, the video button should be right next to that.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes,
All right. So what I just see is a speaker. I don't see anything else. Was there something I did wrong when I came into the meeting?
You're,
Well, if you're on your phone, I don't know how it's accessing the camera. I guess, I mean, I've never done this on the phone before, so I don't know.
Bruce, on your phone at the very bottom, left is mute. That's your microphone. Should be a camcorder right to the right of it. At the very bottom, do you see that?
Well, 46, sure. Do you have your laptop there, Bruce, where you can use it?
He turned off his mic.
I see.
I am not doing anything. How about if I log back in? Because I am not looking at I'm not seeing what you're seeing. And I did this earlier today. And
Did you do it on your phone today or on a computer?
there was a video icon and it's just, I don't see it.
Do you have your laptop nearby?
Not, no, not one that's going to work. So let me just see what this is. Zoom display. Screen zoom. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave and I'm going to come back because I don't know what else to do.
Okay, well, that's okay. We will go ahead and call the meeting to order. When you log back in, we will we'll catch you absent. We will, we may be partway through the agenda, but we'll let you know where we are when you log in. Okay? All right. Thank you, Bruce.
Can you see me?
What?
I asked if you could see me.
No, we can't see you. We hear you just fine. We don't see you. Okay, well, he's gone. Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order, and our illustrious organizer has put a flag on the screen, so we'll stand for the pledge.
Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much. Before we do the roll call, I think everyone in attendance, video and otherwise, knows that John Torgerson, one of our aldermen from Ward 1, has moved from his residence in Ward 1. We knew that was happening, but it is official now. He is gone and has moved somewhere else in the city, but he has resigned from his alderman position in Ward 1. So at this point, we have 5 aldermen and 4 are in attendance, which is a quorum. 1 will be in attendance shortly, I'm hoping. And I've been advised by the city clerk and the city attorney that the rules aren't changed as far as passing an ordinance. It still will require a vote of 4 aldermen to pass an ordinance. So just so you know going forward tonight. So do a roll call vote, please. Chandra?
Alderman Alder.
Here.
Alderman Galloway.
Here.
We can hear you, but can't see you still. Alderman Poston.
Here.
Alderman Schaefer.
Here.
Alderman Smith.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Okay, this is going to be interesting. I thank Sam for putting all this together. This is the first time, and it's probably going to take a little bit longer than normal, but we will muddle our way through this. Shouldn't be a problem if we're all patient with one another. The way I want to recognize people instead of our famous little red lights is just you put your hand up to your face and let me know. You can't, well, You can see my hand, but put it up next to your face. There you go, Bruce.
Hello.
Hey. All right. So we are now all 5 in attendance and invisible. So when you want to speak, why put your hand by your face. And since John Torgerson was the original sponsor of Bill 3118, I'm going to ask Ted, Mayor Pro Tem, if he would read that. And this is our first new bill for the evening. Oh, I guess.
The minutes.
Oh, I went right by the minutes. Good grief. There are lots of them too. All right. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of March the 2nd?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
And Smith. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of March 12th?
So moved.
Second.
I think that was Schaefer and
Yes.
and Smith. Okay, that's good. All right. It's hard to tell when I'm not sitting next to you. All right, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of March the 18th?
Schaefer moves.
Smith seconds.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All righty. And a motion to approve the minutes of the breakfast meeting for March the 26th.
Schaefer moves.
Smith second.
All right, Schaefer and Smith, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Minutes are approved. All right, we will move on to the first reading bills. We have no scheduled visitors or guests, which they had the opportunity to register. None did. So, Mr. Smith, if you would read Bill 3118, please, or move forward with that.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that we read Bill 3118 on its first reading for short title and description only, please.
Second.
Okay, I think Bruce's motion made by Alderman Smith and seconded by Alderman Galloway to read Bill 3118. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Ms. Galloway.
An ordinance of the City of Ozark, Missouri, authorizing the city to enter into a contract with the Ozark Chamber of Commerce for professional services.
Okay, Mr. Childers, any comments on that bill?
The bill that you see before you that was in the packet was a bill that was worked on by a committee that was put together to lengthen, strengthen, modify the previous agreement that we had for another 3-year period. We worked on that in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce Director and Executive Committee. Be that as it may, the new bill that you have that is the amendment that we received late this afternoon, I understand was put together by Alderman Poston in conjunction with the Chamber Director. So it's very different than the bill that we worked on. And so I really would probably turn this over to either Alderman Poston or back to the sponsor to explain the bill. It's really a COVID-19 sort of temporary chamber agreement. So really, didn't really have anything to do with putting this together and negotiating. So I would relinquish that to Alderman Poston.
All right, Alderman Poston, in the discussion period for the bill as was read, if you wish to make an amendment or if there's any other comments from other aldermen about the bill that was read by title, now would be the time to make those comments or your suggestions, Alderman Poston.
I would like to make an amendment, but I was curious, Ms. Calloway, did you have something you wanted to say before I did? Okay. Then yes. So I am going to make an amendment in just a moment, and just to tell you what's in this amendment. Looking at what's going on with our business community and what will be coming to us as a city financially, it didn't make sense to enter into a long-term contract. And many of the items in that contract, especially for this year, quickly became no longer relevant. I kind of saw that. I reached out to Miss Evans, and I felt like I'm going to add this just to the record real quick. Anna's response was amazing, because I called her up and I said, Anna, we can't do a 3-year deal with $30K a year, $35K a year. She's like, I know. And I said, you understand that this COVID-19 is going to have a massive impact on our business community? And she said, yes, I know. And they have been a great partner to work with to rewrite this contract to reflect both the budget reality that the city is going to be facing and the economic reality that our businesses are going to be facing. So this contract was written, and I will make this amendment to modify the existing contract with the contract that was presented to you this afternoon, and that Ms. Hodges has. That contract changes this to a 3-year term instead of a 1-year term. It gives the chamber a fee of $10,000 for services rendered, and it realigns the focus of what they're going to be working on, at least with our money, for the next 3 months, to focus on the COVID-19 response, making sure that businesses know how to comply with some of our rules, making sure that businesses have access to all state and federal monies and assistance programs that will be available to them. And then to continue to do the other things that they would always do as a chamber, but to remove any superfluous information that gets in the way of addressing the current needs. So that was what we rewrote, and I do make the motion that we amend the existing contract with the contract that was sent out this afternoon.
Okay, there's been a motion made. What I would like to do, I guess this is probably the right order. This is a first reading, public hearing, and we do have Tanya Privet, the president of the chamber, this year's president, and I imagine that she would have a comment to make. I don't know, you're on mute now, Tanya, but would you like to comment on this before we vote on the amendment?
Just that we want to be as supportive as we can to the city at this time, and we understand all the challenges that our local communities and businesses are going to be facing. We would like that, at the end of this time, of course, the contract is reevaluated for the longer term, but we are all in this together.
Okay, very fine. Any comments from, you're the only person that's not a staff member or alderman, so there's no other public in the audience. So any other comments from alderman before we need a second and then vote on the amendment?
Hey, Mr. Mayor, I don't know if she wanted to comment or not, but I would just point out that Ms. Evans is on the call as well, if she wants to comment.
Absolutely. Well, I saw her smiling and agreeing with everything you said, and Anna, I apologize. Yes.
Oh,
please.
no worries.
No, feel free to comment. Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you. I just echo Tanya's sentiments, exactly what Alderman Poston has said throughout discussions with him and with our discussions with our executive board. We want to be, I think it speaks to the willingness of the city and of the chamber both to be proactive in responding to situations. And I think it is vital that we continue to make sure that we do have a strong partnership and that the city is able to be very connected and plugged into the business community. This is not something that is going to be resolved very quickly. The effects of this situation are going to be felt, and we don't really have a good idea at this point as to how many businesses are going to be affected and to what level. So in as much as we can continue being that proactive partner to communicate information as we receive it, whether that is from the legislative angle or a public health angle, or information about employment and HR issues, or financial assistance that might be available, anything like that, the chamber has shifted our operations to focus very, very heavily on being that proactive response to our business community to help them assess the impact that that this pandemic is having, and then help prepare for long-term recovery. So I really, really do appreciate Alderman Poston's willingness to reevaluate and to make sure that both the city and the chamber are addressing the most pressing needs that our business community feels at this time.
All right, thank you. Any other comments from Alderman? Yes, Heather.
Okay, the length of time for the new amendment, did you say it was a year? No, 3 years.
It's 3 months.
Oh, a 3 month, okay.
Yes, so it would
Okay.
be April 6th to July 6th.
And then at that time, do we look at the contract again?
Yes.
That was my intention, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions from the Alderman? All right, yes, please, Steve.
So when we look at the contract again in 3 months, do you anticipate being able to accomplish everything in 3 months that's in this contract with related to the COVID-19 response? Or do you anticipate that in 3 months, we need to just look at what we've been able to accomplish and then really kind of reevaluate and take it from there?
So I anticipate the things that we put into the contract, specifically planning out our chamber response to the pandemic, those are things that are all going to continue to be ongoing as long as they are needed. So my understanding from my conversation with Alderman Poston was that for the initial 3 month period, this is going to be us, having that very active response. And then at the end of that 3 months, if the board feels that it is an appropriate time for us to return to the longer term contract discussion, then that would be the ultimate ideal and goal that our organization would push for and would be happy with. But there's just no way to know in 3 months. I mean, I can't say, yes, we will recover the economy in 3 months and then we will be right back on track. So it really is going to be an ongoing evaluation of what the business community is telling us that they need at that time.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any other comments? All right, Alderman Poston has made a motion to,
So Bruce has something.
oh, okay, Bruce, I'm sorry. Yeah, if I don't see a hand being waved on the screen, speak up. Go ahead, Bruce.
So Steve, what is the recommendation of staff and why?
Like I said, we just received this afternoon, just like you did, and so I'm glad it was going back to a first reading, because I would like to have more conversation with Anna about this and make sure that I understand exactly also what the city and the chamber would be working on together. There's some things that take place simultaneously, and it seems to me that the short-term contract again is maybe of the nature where we get these things started, and it's so short of time in 3 months that it may continue to just change and evolve or be lengthened or whatever it may be. So it seems like we do have to come back in 3 months, make a report to the board of what we have accomplished and what we still need to continue working on. I'm going to guess that Ms. Evans and I will probably identify some different directions we can go as we're working on these items.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so fluid that it's hard to tell. I just didn't have a great amount of time to really look at it. But I do believe that it probably makes more sense, because everything is changing day to day, week to week, that we probably have to have something that is easily modifiable. And so in the short term, I think that this is a reasonable way to go.
My follow-up question is then, you're thinking a first reading tonight and that is it, and then we hear it as another time and enter the contract, or what are your thoughts there?
Bruce, the bill that was on the agenda was the first reading. When it is amended, and we have a motion to amend the bill with this new contract. If there, after discussion, if there is a second to that, then the new contract will replace the old contract, and the new contract will come back as a first reading at our next meeting.
And when is our next meeting?
Well, we have, well, technically it's scheduled for the 20th. We're going to be discussing that at the end if we want to go ahead with that, or if we want to go to once a month. But right now it's scheduled for the 20th in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and the thinking is that we might move to once a month so that pressing city business isn't taken up when people can't really access.
No, that's the thought. It's going to be a discussion. This decision has not been made. It'll be.
Yeah, I understand. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. So what will happen is that this will become a first reading, perhaps as long as a month from now, and the staff is okay with that.
Yeah, yes, that's.
Okay.
All right, Alderman Poston has made a motion to amend Bill 3118 with the new contract. Do I hear a motion, or do I hear a second to that motion? Okay, Alder, did you raise your hand? Do you want to speak?
Second. Whoop.
Okay, motion has been made by Alderman Poston and seconded by Alderman Alder to amend Bill 3118 by replacing the bill that's in your packet with the new one that was supplied this afternoon. It's been made and seconded. All in favor? Or should we do a roll call vote on that? Let's do a roll. I want to do never mind. I want to do a roll call vote. Would you please do that, Chandra?
Yes, Alderman Alder,
Aye.
Alderman Galloway,
Aye.
Alderman Poston,
Aye.
Alderman Schaefer,
Aye.
Alderman Smith.
Aye.
We have 5 aye votes, motion
All
carries.
right, thank you. That's just a lot clearer. All right, the Tanya and Anna, Steve will be in touch, and this will be on the agenda for a first reading at the next meeting, which is now scheduled for the 20th, but could change, could.
Thank you.
All right. I'm sorry. All right, Mr. Poston, Bill 3137.
Yes, Your Honor, I make a motion that we place Bill 3137 on its first reading.
Second.
Oh, okay. Motion made by Alderman Poston, seconded by Alderman Schaefer to put Bill 3137 on its first reading by title only. All in favor? Wave at the camera. Thank you. All right, Ms. Calloway.
An ordinance of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Ozark, Missouri, authorizing the issuance of a conditional use permit for property located within Ozark, Missouri at 2700 South 14th Street.
Mr. Childers, any comments or?
I think I'd like to turn this over to Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith is in the planning development director and can explain a little bit more about the details of the conditional use as it was recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Mr. Smith.
Yes, the application is for conditional use for a home-based bakery. The property is zoned R1C, and per ordinance section 405-240.b, the home-based occupation does require the conditional use. So that is why it went before the P&Z Commission and now the Board of Aldermen. Staff report and findings, staff did recommend at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, there was no one in the audience for this. The applicant was there. She did address any questions, and there was only a couple questions from the commission. No opposition. Like I said, the commission did make a recommendation to approve unanimously 7-0 of this conditional use.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the Alderman? You know, we do still have an audience. Yes, Mr. Poston.
Your mute's on, Nathan.
Under your mute.
Sorry, I thought I had it. I didn't have a question so much as a comment. I am going to ask if there's no opposition amongst the board. I am going to ask that we fast track this tonight. There was no opposition at the planning and zoning when this was brought up before them, and that meeting did occur before all these rules. So it was a full and fair meeting, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. But nonetheless, there was no opposition, and if this household can make a few extra bucks offering some baked goods, I think now is the time to let them do it. So I'd like to expedite this if there's no opposition amongst the board.
All right, are there any other comments from the alderman or from anybody in the audience that is not like Anna or Tanya, any public? All right, if there are no public comments, Mr. Poston, please proceed.
Your Honor, I move that we place Bill 3137 on its second reading.
Second.
Oh, 10, okay. Motion made by Alderman Poston, seconded by Alderman Smith to put Bill 3137 on its second reading by title and description. All in favor? Ms. Callaway.
An ordinance of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Ozark, Missouri, authorizing the issuance of a conditional use permit for property located within Ozark, Missouri at 2700 South 14th Street.
All right, if there are no more questions, Mr. Poston.
Your Honor, I move that we adopt Bill 3137 as ordinance 20-018.
Smith seconds.
Motion made by Alderman Poston, seconded by Alderman Smith to adopt Bill 3137 as ordinance 20-018. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Alder,
Aye.
Alderman Galloway,
Aye.
Alderman Poston,
Aye.
Alderman Schaefer,
Aye.
Alderman Smith.
Aye.
We have 5 aye votes, motion carries.
Okay, Bill 3140, Mr. Poston.
Your Honor, just clarification, I have a 3139 on my agenda is next.
You know, I just checked off the wrong one. You're right. All right, that would be Ted. Mr. Smith, Bill 3139.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that we read Bill 3139 on its first reading with short title and description only, please.
Second.
All right, motion made by Alderman Smith, seconded by Alderman Poston to put Bill 3139 on its first reading by title and description only. All in favor? Okay, Ms. Callaway.
An ordinance of the City of Ozark, Missouri, approving 3 reappointments to the Highway J and 17th Street Community Improvement District Board of Directors.
All right, Mr. Childers, any comments on that?
This is a regular occurrence. This is one of the community improvement districts that exist in the city of Ozark, and this is time for reappointment of their board.
Any questions of anybody, any alderman?
Is there any reason to move it forward tonight?
What was that, Ted?
Is there any reason to move it forward tonight, or do we have time?
Mr. Childers just suggested that we do that.
I just, not knowing, I mean, we're on our schedule to have 2 meetings a month, and depending on how the discussion goes, we may continue that, but I would hate to prolong anything that doesn't need to be prolonged under the circumstances. So I would just recommend that if there isn't any issues or any objections, that maybe we expedite the bills that we have on the agenda tonight. This one and the following.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that we read Bill 3139 on its second reading with short title and description only, please.
Second. Okay, second from Alderman, motion by Alderman Smith, second by Alderman Poston to put Bill 3139 on its second and final reading. All in favor? Okay, Ms. Callaway.
An ordinance of the City of Ozark, Missouri, approving 3 reappointments to the Highway J and 17th Street Community Improvement District Board of Directors.
Okay, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that we adopt Bill 3139 as ordinance 20-019.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Smith and seconded by Alderman Alder to adopt Bill 3139 as ordinance 20-019. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Alder,
Aye.
Alderman Galloway,
Aye.
Alderman Poston, Alderman Smith,
Aye.
Alderman Schaper.
Aye.
We have 5 aye votes, motion carries.
Okay, Mr. Poston, Bill 3140. Can't hear you.
I
Can
move
you
that we place,
unmute? There you go.
I move that we place, I move that we place Bill 3140 on its first reading by title and short description.
Second, Smith.
Motion made by Alderman Poston, seconded by Alderman Smith, to put Bill 3140 on its first reading by title and description. All in favor? Okay, Ms. Galloway?
An ordinance approving the final plat for Elk Valley subdivision and directing the city clerk to take all steps necessary to record said plat.
Okay, Mr. Smith, comments on that? And Cameron Smith, not Alderman Smith.
Yes, the Elk Valley final plat. This was one of the plats that did go through the preliminary plat under the old ordinance. So this is the final plat for the Elk Valley subdivision. All the public improvements have been completed and have been approved by Public Works through their inspection process. All of the staff comments have been approved as well. The final plat does substantially conform to the preliminary plat, which was recommended for approval back through the P&Z Commission. Staff did recommend approval as well, and also staff is recommending if we can expedite this final plat as well.
Okay, any questions from the Alderman? Mr. Poston? Okay, well, you want to make a motion to?
Well, I do, but I think Mr. Galloway has a question.
Oh, I'm looking for him. I'm sorry.
I'm right here. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. There are 12 pictures on the screen. If I miss a hand waving, you just have to holler. Go ahead.
I understand. Thank you. My question is directed to Cameron Smith. Just for those people who are watching and aren't familiar with how the old ordinance worked, if you could just explain what happened and why we're required to vote on it, and really why we're required to vote to approve it.
So this, like I said, this ordinance or this preliminary plat went through the old ordinance. At that time, only preliminary plats went to the Planning and Zoning Commission for review. After the P&Z Commission did approve that, then staff took it upon themselves to work with the applicant. The preliminary plat did not go through the Board of Aldermen. Now that they have completed all their public improvements and submitted their construction drawings for the public improvements, they have constructed all those improvements out there. The property is sitting now ready to build homes once the final plat is recorded. And so under the old ordinance, since the Board of Aldermen did not see the preliminary plat, that is why you guys are reviewing the final plat at this time. The new ordinance that went into effect a few months ago now takes the preliminary plat through both the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Aldermen for approval. And then once they get through that approval of the preliminary plat, staff does work for the applicant to go through the final plat process administratively and will not go back to the Board of Aldermen.
And the key, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
And the key question tonight is whether the developer met staff's expectations on the final plat, and you're saying that the developer did.
That is correct.
And that being the case, there's no reason not to expedite this, I guess.
No, we are requesting to expedite this because the developer is sitting there idle, waiting to get this final plat recorded so he can sell the lots or recoup some of his investment into the development.
Right. I guess my question should have been phrased, there's no reason to wait.
Oh, that's correct. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any further questions? Mr. Poston?
Your Honor, I move that we place Bill 3140 on its second reading by title and short description.
Second, Smith.
Motion made by Alderman Poston and seconded by Alderman Smith to put Bill 3140 on its second and final reading. All in favor? Okay, Ms. Galloway?
An ordinance approving the final plat for Elk Valley subdivision and directing the city clerk to take all steps necessary to record said plat.
Okay, Mr. Poston. Oh, Mr. Schaefer, comment? Oh, okay.
No.
All right, Mr. Poston.
Your Honor, I move that we adopt Bill 3140 as ordinance 20-020.
Second, Smith.
Motion made by Alderman Poston, seconded by Alderman Smith to adopt Bill 3140 as ordinance 2020. Interesting number, 20-020. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Alder,
Aye.
Alderman Galloway,
Aye.
Alderman Poston,
Aye.
Alderman Schaefer,
Aye.
Alderman Smith.
Aye.
We have 5 aye votes, motion carries.
Okay, moving along to second reading bills. Mr. Poston, Bill 3135.
Yes, Your Honor, I move that we read Bill 3135 by title and short description.
Second,
Okay,
Smith.
okay, thank you. Motion made by Alderman Poston, seconded by Alderman Smith, that Bill 3135 on its second and final reading by title and description. All in favor? All right, Ms. Galloway.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute the Deerbrook Marketplace redevelopment agreement with the Deerbrook Marketplace Redevelopment Corporation, the certificate of reimbursable project costs with 65 and CC Development LLC, the certificate of substantial completion with 65 and CC Development LLC, and accept the certificate of payment executed by Hartman and Company Incorporated.
All right, Mr. Childers, any comments on that?
I would just ask, on this bill, I know that we had read this bill and we had further conversation during the time period for which it was held over for the second reading. Ms. Callaway, did you ever hear back from the developer or the developer's legal counsel as to the directive that we were given by the Board of Aldermen?
I informed the developer's attorney that the interest calculation was going to be based as the board had voted, and just heard nothing more than that.
Thank you.
All right, any comments from the Alderman? Mr. Poston?
Ms. Callaway, is our recommendation, I'm trying to look through here, is our recommendation codified in this bill anywhere?
Yeah, yes, it is. Sorry, I had to turn my mic on. It's on the schedule to the certificate of reimbursable project costs. So you'll have to flip almost to the end of the attachment. I don't have page numbers on the document, but it's in the schedule that's attached to that certificate of reimbursable project costs. This schedule originally noted a different calculation of interest based on an earlier date. And after the Board of Aldermen voted to change that date, it has been updated as calculated in that new schedule that's attached.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Mr. Poston?
Your Honor, I have moved that we adopt Bill 3135 as ordinance 20-021.
Second, Smith.
Motion made by Alderman Poston, seconded by Alderman Smith to adopt Bill 3135 as ordinance 20-021. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Alder,
Aye.
Alderman Galloway,
Aye.
Alderman Poston,
Aye.
Alderman Schaefer,
Aye.
Alderman Smith.
Aye.
We have 5 aye votes, motion carries.
Okay, moving along, City Administrator Childers has asked that we discuss the possibility of moving to one meeting a month. And so I would like for him to address that, and then we'll open it up for discussion amongst the aldermen. So Mr. Childers?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Basically, there's been a lot of conversation about throughout the entire state, and I'm sure throughout the entire nation, about how public bodies like ours should move forward with conducting public meetings. Certainly, you guys are all familiar with the Sunshine Law. The Sunshine Law is something that is very important. We follow that because it is the law to allow for the public to address and have access to the elected officials and all their meetings when one is held. The Attorney General has sent out a memo or a letter that explained that although the sunshine law shall be followed, that they certainly recognize the challenges that the entities are facing with regards to trying to meet the letter of the law. And some of the cities out there in trying to maintain the social distance, make sure that they comply with their own stay-at-home orders that many of them, such as ours, has passed. We're simply struggling with how do we provide total access and the access required by the Sunshine Law to the public by using audio video means. And as we have researched that, not only do we have a few options that we can continue to move forward with, it's just that the high profile cases that may generate a large number of people that want to address the board is probably the concern. So I'm not really recommending one way or the other, whether you go to one meeting or keep with 2 meetings or have 3 or 4 meetings. It's really more that I needed to bring it to your attention because when I discussed it with the city attorney, she explained to me that in our own ordinances, that if we were going to deviate from having 2 regularly scheduled meetings a month, that this needed to be brought before the board and it would have to be a board's decision of whether or not they wanted to reduce that. So right now, our regularly scheduled board meetings are the same. You have the first and the third Monday of the month, and that is in place. If you wanted to change that to try to get through the epidemic that we're dealing with, and you were concerned about trying to meet the letter of the law, the stay-at-home order, and things that have been passed by not only us, but the governor, then we certainly could reduce that number. But if you choose not to, then we will go forward with the first and the third Monday of the month. But I felt like it was important to have that discussion. So I hope that that was a thorough explanation, and
Right.
I'll give it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, well, there are 2 things, unresolved matters, that 2 unresolved matters that need to be discussed where there are likely to be large crowds. That's the Northtown issue, Grand Haven issue, and also the Stinger property south of town. We would anticipate when those are held at the meeting, those discussions are held, that there would be a significant number of people that would want to attend and speak. And so that's our concern, is how do we do that? What the law allows for now is, and what Chandra posted on Friday, was if anybody wanted to speak, they could have submitted questions to us. They could have submitted a statement to us, but they couldn't come here tonight. So that's the issue we've got. So I'd like to have your all's thoughts on what's the most practical and proper thing to do. Alderman? Okay, I think Mr. Galloway's light flashed. Go ahead, Mr. Galloway.
Oh, I had understood that there was an attorney general, some attorney general guidance on the issue. Am I wrong about that?
Ms. Galloway?
Yeah.
Ms. Galloway? Yes.
Yes, I can answer. We did receive Missouri Attorney General guidance on the Sunshine Law that instructed that, as the Sunshine Law protects the transparency of government, it was encouraged that any high-profile matters be held off until a time where the public could attend safely and not have to choose between attending a meeting when they are being told to stay home versus providing their feedback on any matter that's before the Board of Aldermen. The Attorney General guidance, I think, was sent to the board by Steve earlier prior to this meeting.
Thank you. Pardon me, comments from the board? Okay, you're leaning forward, Mr. Poston, yes.
So I've expressed this already, but I'm 100% against reducing meetings. I see a couple things. One, I know there's some separate. We're looking at 2 things: the meeting our meeting frequency in general, and how we want to handle high-profile items. I think we ought to make an attempt to handle even the high profile items. There may be some situations where people do not have access to the technology and want to speak out, and we can accommodate them. And in those situations, I'm fine with kicking things down the road for as long as we can, where we can. But as long as we have the ability to meet with the public and do their business, I believe we absolutely should do that, particularly at a time when we are asking people to make sacrifices that they're not accustomed to. I do not believe that this is the time for us to reduce the frequency with which their government meets. So I'm of the opinion that we need to continue with business as usual as much as we possibly can until we start putting people at risk. Because for several of these high profile cases, I'll use Covered Bridge as an example. I believe that the solution to the problem that's going to arise to that is going to be a legislative solution. I'm looking at 33 priorities that we have on our planning and zoning list alone that aren't going away, and they have to be addressed before some of these high profile items can be addressed. And that's just on the planning and development side. I'm sure every other department has their own issues. Technology has given us a way forward. I suggest that we take advantage of it, and as much as we can, continue to do the business of the community.
Okay, Ms. Calloway.
Just want to clarify that anyone from the public can sign up to attend the meeting regardless of whether they want to speak or not, and they will be accommodated at the OC in a manner. But there's no prohibition on people attending the meeting. They just have to sign up in advance.
Would they be in the same room that we are in?
I believe that we were trying to facilitate this meeting similar to how Springfield had proposed, where staff, which there's a group of you there that are under the limits that are, legal now. So you would be in one room, and then potentially the public could be in a larger room where we would have established 6-foot distance requirements and another camera. But the OC is a large enough facility that we could accommodate that.
Okay, Mr. Childers?
Just to add to what Ms. Calloway said, in working with the logistics of it, I think that was the challenge that we had, was trying to maintain the social distance. And to be honest, trying to make sure that we don't put our employees in any type of danger either. I think that's very important. We don't know where the public has been. We don't know who they've been around. We don't know if they're practicing good social distancing techniques. And so what we have come up with the best practice is that right in the front of the two main doors, the entrance to the OC, there is a laptop with a camera. There is a distance back from that laptop where we had put an X on the floor. The people who wanted to sign up will be put in an order. And rather than even bringing them into the building, and not saying that we couldn't do that and maintain social distancing, we can have them put their phone number on a list. This is just one idea. Put their phone number on a list, have one of them come in at a time. When that one is done addressing the Board of Aldermen, then that person shall leave. And then we will text the next person who could be waiting in their vehicle in the parking lot. And then that person would come in, stand on the X, present their information to the board, and then so forth and so on. That is another way to handle it without bringing people into the building. I think whoever is managing that aspect of it, quite frankly, I would suggest that we have a gown and a mask and the protective gear necessary, because I don't know that any of the employees want to necessarily have that job that's up there escorting people in and out of that location. So I just wanted to give everybody kind of an idea of how that might be able to work.
I've got a comment on that. I think it's a question, an integral part of the discussion that we have anytime there's a high profile case involves everybody that's there hearing what everybody else has to say. It's not just a matter of the Board of Aldermen hearing it, because I think that influences the comments from both sides. And I don't know how we can accommodate that with the method that Mr. Childers outlined. Not that that's not a good way of doing it, but if we want people that are speaking to be heard by everybody else that's waiting to speak or just in attendance. You know, we have to figure out a way to do that. That's the complicated part of this. Sam, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I have my hand up.
You can't see her, but she does.
I mean, it's actually streaming live, so they could be in their car essentially watching it stream.
They could, okay. But they would be able to stream it and hear it in their cars. And then, okay, then we would text them when it was their turn to speak. Okay. Does everybody understand that better than I did? Mr. Smith?
Sam, this is probably a question for you. If we knew in advance of the people who wanted to speak, not talking about the people that, when the mayor opens up the public hearing that, you know, I'm not talking about those people, but anybody else that wanted to speak that is going to be on a list, could we not also let them be on the Zoom? Because I think you can do up to 100 if I remember on the plan that we have. And we could unmute them when it's their turn to speak too. I mean, I'm just throwing out, could that be an option?
Yes, it is an option. We did that for tonight. We basically said, if you want to speak, I can send them the Zoom invite. You can come to the OC. You can email your questions in. There were 3 different ways that they could get essentially on the agenda for tonight. And Zoom is one of the options. I would basically just say, you know, Mr. Smith, just make up a name. Your turn is now. You have 5 minutes to speak to the board and I'll count you down. And then we'll just basically say you have 30 seconds left, or, you know, kind of roll them into it so that it doesn't go on. Very similar to how it's conducted during the regular meetings anyway. But yeah, we would basically just say, you are welcomed in at this time. Approximately you'll speak at this time. And then we would just unmute them and then remute them when they were done.
So then not to discredit, because I think the OC and that, you know, what Steve just said and everything else is vitally important. But probably the people that would go to the OC, wouldn't that be people who don't have a cell phone, or don't have internet, don't have a computer, don't have a tablet, or back in the analog world? I mean, that's by and large at this point, right?
Stream, for whatever reason, they maybe didn't have fast enough internet to keep up with it. There could be other, you know, they might have the ability, but they might not have fast enough internet to be able to stream like Zoom. So sometimes that does cause glitches depending on where, especially if they're more rural than they are in the city. So I just want to make sure that there is an option for every single solitary circumstance. And I think that opening the OC and saying, they do need to tell me ahead of time that they want to come so that I can accommodate how many people we're talking and get them in an order. But I think that should take care of most of it. But like I said, it definitely is an option for them. So
sure. Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Calloway and Mr. Galloway. Ms. Calloway.
Yes, I was just going to confirm that what Ted was saying was accurate, or what Alderman Smith stated, that we have to provide a platform for those individuals who cannot access it via the internet. So by broadcasting it, if they signed up at the OC, that would be one option.
Okay, Mr. Galloway.
I think that I heard Nathan say that, or sorry, Alderman Poston say that he wanted business to be addressed as best we can under a normal meeting schedule, but then to screen out those bills where we know there's public controversy. Who would make that decision as to whether it rises to the level of public controversy, or has that been given any thought?
Good question. I'm going to ask Ms. Calloway to answer that.
I think at this time, this agenda was set with the agenda meeting. And we went through and tried to get those items that we could move forward, hoping that this health situation would be concluded by the time that we had the next meeting. At that time, of course, we were anticipating potentially only having meetings monthly, and we were prepared to possibly bring those other high profile matters back at the beginning of the next month, you know, hoping again that things had resolved where we could have a larger group of people in a room.
All right, well, that basically has not been totally decided. So, but the thought was, as Ms. Calloway said, to put those off at least till the first meeting in May. And am I saying that right? Yes, first meeting in May. And whether we have another meeting in April or not. But anyway, what other comments are there? Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Your Honor. I agree with Alderman Poston 100%. I'll go one step further even and say that I think we ought to probably be meeting more than twice a month at this point in time. And I would encourage us, let's not shy away from the controversial. I think there's ways to deal with it. I think we can make the command decision if we get into a situation where we've got 100, or I mean, I'm just picking a number, 100 people who say, I got to go to the OC. And we realize that's just not safe. That's not functional. That's not going to work. We make the call to then postpone it. But let's not presuppose, because we need to keep doing the people's business, and let's not presuppose that we're going to get too many people to the OC. If we had 100 people that all went on Zoom, I'd be happy as a lark if we still continued, even with those controversial. The only issue would be if we had 100 people, and again, I'm just using the number 100, whatever that number is. 100 people that said, I don't have cell phones, I don't have internet, I don't have high enough speed, I don't want blah, 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 and I want to go to the OC. And I think if we had that many people sign up and pre-told us that I'm going to be at the OC, I will not do it on Zoom, then we make a command decision at that point in time to maybe postpone it. But I wouldn't presuppose and postpone it, if that makes sense.
Well, we run a risk either way. Ms. Callaway?
For the bills that require public notice and hearing, they must be published. And sometimes the notifications have to be mailed out in advance, which would maybe cause an issue with that planning.
Okay, now on the covered bridge or the Stinger property, that public hearing where notices were sent out was done through planning and zoning. That wouldn't have to be done again, I don't believe.
The public hearing is considered to be held at the Board of Alderman meeting, and anything that would be published would have to be republished for them.
All right, so even though notices were sent out to the public for the planning and zoning meeting for that public hearing, when we put it on, when we have the covered bridge or the Stinger property on first reading, those notices will have to be sent out again. Is that correct?
I was just giving a general answer that for high profile matters, they usually deal with zoning and planning issues, which have a higher threshold for notice requirements because they deal with people's property. But I'll refrain from answering questions about that specific property at this time because I don't have the materials in front of me. But for general planning and zoning purposes, you would run into an issue if you continuously pull things off the agenda because people signed up to speak on it, because then the applicant would have to continuously republish or repost notice.
Well, this is a real can of worms. I see us making some people happy and some people unhappy, regardless of which way we go. There will always be people that want to speak at the last minute, and if they haven't submitted their name or question, I just see it as a difficult issue. But I'm not saying it can't be solved either. We just have to be really patient. And in communicating with the people, let them know that we're doing the best we can. So, and it may be that in the case of covered bridge, that we request input from the applicant to see how he would prefer. He may have a preference. So, but I don't know that we can decide that tonight. So, but the real question is, I'm not real sure how to go forward. First of all, let's deal with whether we go to, let's deal with 1 meeting a month or 2 meetings a month. There's been discussion about keeping ahead with 2 meetings a month. Mr. Smith said even more. So let's deal with that first before we go with the high profile and see what everybody wants to do there. So we know Alderman Poston and Alderman Smithfield, Jason, Heather, Bruce, 1 meeting a month or 2? What are your thoughts?
2.
All right, that seems to be the consensus. I haven't heard from Heather. Okay, go ahead, Heather, you speak.
First of all, I'm having a little trouble hearing you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if it's just me and old age.
Well, I don't know. Can it, I've been talking a lot louder than I normally do. and that's
Okay.
loud, But can you hear me okay now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, well,
And
I'll go ahead.
I think we should keep it our 2 meetings a month, just for the fact that with the situation we're in, you don't know that we might need, something might come up that we need to address. I think as a citizen, I would feel better knowing that our council was meeting twice a month and not just once a month.
All right, Mr. Galloway, what are your thoughts on that as well? I mean, just a consensus.
No, I understand. We're looking at a consensus. Ideally, I would like to do 2 meetings a month. I get concerned about a high-profile matter being undertaken, though. And I know we're not talking about that now, but I don't know how to avoid talking about it. I guess, Mr. Mayor, it would be you that set the agenda. I guess you would be the one that would be screening.
Well, I think you're right, and that it is my thought that we would go ahead with 2 a month. I think that's best. But as we set the agenda, I think we need to talk with the applicants and take into consideration their thoughts as to whether or not we put the high-profile matters on that agenda. So it looks like the consensus is that we stick with 2 a month. So we will go ahead and have a meeting on the 20th, and the Wednesday before is the day. I don't know what that date is, but that's the Wednesday morning that staff will meet. That is the Mayor Pro Tem, the City Clerk, City Attorney, Mr. Childers, and myself, and we will set the agenda. So we will have discussed the potential high-profile matters before that, and discuss that with the applicants and the other primary principal parties, and discuss that at that point. So is there any other discussion on that, or are we okay with moving forward with 2? And there will be, the second one will be just like this one. It'll be Zoom and the OC. Any other comments? Mr. Childers is, okay. All right, if that's the case, then the consensus rules, and we will go with 2. Mr. Smith, we have a written report on planning and development. Any comments?
No specific comments, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, yeah, there's 2 Mr. Smiths. I apologize. I should say Cameron and Ted. All right, any questions of Cameron on the planning and development report?
Not a question, just a request. Cameron, I know you normally do that once a month. Will you start sending us this report at every meeting, just so I can kind of watch it as things change a little bit here? Is that doable?
Well, the way we track it, we run the reports at the end of the month so that we can post those on the website. So it's really not accurate data.
Okay. Would you, at the very least then, if you see something just trail way off, will you give us a heads up?
I think you'd see that probably next month. It might start tapering off.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the police annual report. Mr. Arnold, Chief Arnold.
Justin's fine.
No, if you're gonna call me mayor, I'm gonna call you chief.
All right, first I want to apologize to all you all for this being a little bit later. It just seems thing after thing happened to delay this getting to you all. You all will be getting this in the mail. Our city clerk sent it out last week, but there is a digital copy added to the meeting minutes for tonight. But just some of the positives that I want to bring your attention to. First of all, you all know what our budget is, and when you look at it, 78% of our budget is dedicated to personnel. And so that is a huge issue for us, is staffing. I'm happy to report that we've stabilized our staffing for the most part over the last year. We have had some departures, but that's kind of an industry standard any longer in law enforcement. So some of the things that you guys did earlier in this year, the end of last year, I want to thank you for, because that has definitely helped us out a lot along the way with that. Something that I'm very proud of is, the continued high standard that we have and the professionalism that we display day in and day out. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we've set ourselves apart from other law enforcement agencies through our certification with the Missouri Police Chiefs Charitable Foundation. We're on track to get recertified this year with that, our first recertification. But one of the ways that I can show you that there are tangible results from that elevated professionalism and transparency is in 2019, we had a total of 12 allegations for professional standards investigations. 5 of those 12 were sustained, but 2 of them came from the public and 3 of them were internal allegations that were generated. So what that tells me, and what that should tell you, is that we are providing an exceptional service and a consistent exceptional service to our citizens. And for the most part, they're happy with the service that we are providing to them. And that right there is proof. It's a tangible proof that we have the numbers to back that up. In 2019, we handled 23,407 dispatch transactions or traceable police contacts, which that's up from 22,861 in 2008. So overall, we had about a 2.5% increase in traceable police contacts. However, we did have a 0.8% decrease in dispatch calls for service. I don't think that's any type of a trend for that going down or anything like that. That could be a slow week, to be perfectly honest. So still our highest volume calls are in response to our community's needs. Things like citizen assists, extra patrols, checking areas or checking vehicles. Those are all things that our citizens have come to expect from us and things like that. So these, to me, are very significant signs that our community is still relying on us to be problem solvers for us. And we're working in a partnership with a lot of our citizenry to co-produce the exceptional public safety that we do have in Ozark. In 2019, we conducted 5,350 traffic stops. That's up from 4,669 in 2018. So that's about a 13% increase. So our officers are much more visible out in the area. We're focusing on the safety of the motoring public. But one thing that I think is important for you all to realize is that 57% of all of our traffic stops in 19 were made of citizens who do not reside in Ozark. So over half are people who are, traversing through our city. So not only are we tasked with providing public safety to people who reside in Ozark, but we also have to produce an exceptional level of public safety for those that are just traveling to and from our city, who they may be working in our city or playing in our city or just traveling through. But we also have to, police non-Ozark citizens who are traversing through our city. We worked 666 motor vehicle crashes in 2019, which is just a very slight increase from 2018, but still trending upwards. And another thing that I'd like to bring your attention to is the exceptional job that the entire department, and especially our criminal investigations unit, is doing in clearing Part 1 crimes. In 2019, our criminal investigations unit had an 84.3% clearance rate on all Part 1 felony crimes. So those are what the FBI has deemed the most serious offenses that we continually track data on. 84.3% of those we cleared. So our investigators and all of our officers are doing really an exceptional job providing their services to the city. A few things that you might notice is that we did have an upward trend with robberies, also aggravated assaults and larcenies and thefts. These aren't alarming to me as far as a significant trend or anything like that. If you look at, for instance, our robberies in 2019, yes, we went from 3 to 8, but we still cleared 100% of those robberies, okay? So these aren't stranger crimes happening for the most part. And if they do, we are not allowing this pattern to where we have someone who is committing multiple acts or anything like that. We are able to address it and clear those cases. The same goes for aggravated assaults. We cleared 85% of our aggravated assaults. And the important thing to look at with this is we are still exponentially higher than what national averages are on any of those Part 1 crimes, okay? Most of the time, we're double what the national average is. So what that should tell you and what you should be proud of is that your police department is out here providing exceptional services to the citizens that you represent. Like most communities in our country, we do suffer from a drug or a controlled substance problem, okay? We do have some issues with controlled substance abuse. However, it's no different from really any other community there is. In 2019, we handled 289 separate drug cases. That's about a 10% increase from 2018. However, what we are looking at is the consistent upward trend in methamphetamine and heroin seizures. In 2019, we seized over 3 times more methamphetamine than we did in 2018, over 2 times the amount of heroin and over 2 times the amount of cocaine. They're still not alarming amounts. However, that is a trend that we continue to see, and we're continuing having to try to figure out how not only can we be an agency of problem solvers for other community-oriented programs, but how can we also aggressively target these people who are involved in the illicit drug culture and are causing a loss in quality of life for our other citizens. Another thing also to note is that over the last 2 years, we've seized over 100 illegal guns off the streets in Ozark. I do want to pay a little bit of credit to our Officer of the Year, Taylor Wheeler, last year. He did an exceptional job. And if you see him out and about, congratulate him, thank him for what he's doing for our citizens. But I also want to note that Lieutenant Derek Hill, Corporal Bruce Stafford, Detective Anthony Appleton, Detective Kelsey Cliff, and Detective Stephen Connor were also, they also received very notable accomplishments throughout the year. Another very positive thing that I would like to report is that we are continuing our focus and our high expectation and our encouragement of officers and staff pursuing higher education. Last year, we had an officer who obtained his bachelor's degree and one that obtained an associate's degree. So that brings our department totals to 1 officer who has a doctoral degree, 3 master's degrees, 7 bachelor's degrees, and 5 associate degrees. I think you've probably heard me say this before, but you're not going to find per capita a much more educated department than the ones that you all employ at the Ozark Police Department. We also do anticipate at least a couple more people obtaining higher degrees in 2020. In 19, we held our 4th annual Citizens Academy, which puts another 16 Ozark Police Department ambassadors out in our community who are able to talk about with the public about some of the great things that we're doing. They're also able to answer a lot of questions from all the information that they received during the Citizens Academy. We held our 4th annual Emergency Responders Awareness Day at the police department, where we had over 800 people come to our facility, interact with our staff, It's just a really great day where we can get down on a person-to-person level with our citizens. We participated in our 4th annual Operation Giving and Hope, where we delivered over 40 meals to senior citizens throughout our community who are in need. At our Halloween event, we had over 900 kids. Our annual Cops for Kids, we took 98 kids shopping on $100 shopping sprees. And our Embrace a School program, where we do extra patrols and visits and things like that to the Ozark School District facilities. We had over 2,100 visits in 19. So we're doing a lot of things to engage with our community. Additionally, we held our first annual youth training programs in 2019, where we take that opportunity to engage with our youth, whether it be in just a fun environment or an educational environment. We try to incorporate both of those to where we have some good positive interaction with the children in our community. Why I go into all this, we continually have to address how we're doing as problem solvers for our community, meaning how we are fitting in our community as being community oriented and operated and owned. But also we have some real life challenges, like I talked about, the drug use, the crime, some of the crime that we do face. We have to balance that with being aggressive and targeting criminal activity within our city. So I wanted to put that out there so you all know and you understand some of the things that we're doing to not only up the game for us in being truly community involved, community engaged, but also doing what we can to really eliminate that criminal threat that preys on the quality of life that all of our citizens and you all enjoy by being residents of Ozark. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer those, or you can feel free to contact me any way you want.
That is an incredible report, Chief, and it's exciting to see that, well, the progress we've made from being certified to being certified the second time. And that's really exciting. And I've read the report this afternoon, and good job. Congratulations, not just to you, but certainly to all your people. And I know that's what you feel. So. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Poston.
Yeah, Chief, I got a couple of questions for you.
All right.
Citizen assist.
Okay.
What's that?
So that is typically when a citizen calls for some type of unknown problem that we cannot classify in something else. Okay, so typically when someone calls 911, they say, this is my problem, and it will fall into one of about, I think there's about 180 different codes that it can fall into, whether it be a stealing incident, a driving complaint, a DWI, a drug complaint, whatever it may be. There's about 180 different things that can be classified as. Typically, the citizen assist is just, hey, I'm a citizen and I need to speak with a police officer regarding a matter. And so we really don't have a classification for it, so it kind of falls into that as a catch-all.
Okay. On some of these, the robbery, burglary, larceny thefts, most of those trended up a little bit. Does home cameras, home surveillance cameras, Ring, etc., is that having any effect on stopping crime, clearing crimes, etc.?
So any of those things, first of all, the robberies, aggravated assaults, and larcenies were the only thing that trended up. I don't want people to think that we're having crime waves or anything like that. Yeah, anything that a person can do to put themselves in a more advantageous position to be not as attractive for crime to occur, whether it be at their house or their business. Any of those things will help. I know, like the Ring doorbells, we've had multiple cases this year where someone has either been able to provide us with information in a timely enough manner that we were able to either prevent a crime from occurring, or they provided us with some very successful evidence to solve a crime. I know one particular instance, we had live information and we were able to arrest a person within just a couple of minutes after committing a crime.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Good job. Hey, and by the way, very, very proud of you guys on the clearance rate. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments? All right, before we adjourn, I'd like to request all of you that are listening, those in the room and those that are on Zoom, to take seriously the fact that we have, certainly the stay-at-home order, that goes without saying, but we also have a vacancy in the Board of Alderman. And we need to find a highly qualified person for that. And so I would like to ask all of you just to be thinking. The boundary line for Ward 1 is Oak Street. So anybody that lives south of Oak Street and has lived south of Oak Street for over a year would be eligible. And I think they have to be 21, but typical adult over a year south of Oak Street. If you have any ideas, I want to get that filled as quickly as possible, but I'd like to give you all time to suggest names. It's not that we're hurting, we've got names, but Chief, if there is anybody that stands out in your graduates from the police academy that are in that area, they typically have a pretty high interest in regard to what's going on in the city. That's an understatement. So, any names that you all have, get them to me as soon as you can, and we have a form to fill out. The chamber will get to them with a basic resume form. So, all right. Anything else? Yes, Heather.
How many years was left on John's term?
1 year.
Okay, thank you.
Your Honor, I have a couple other things, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Whoever's appointed, Heather, would be appointed for the remainder of his term, which would be a year, and they would be up for election in April of 2021.
Okay.
Nathan.
Yes, sir. For Chandra, if you don't mind, would you please ask Janelle to put out an updated employee directory? I like seeing everybody's pictures, and it's been a long time since we've done that, so I'd love to have another one, if you don't mind.
Okay, not at all.
Steve, you asked me to email you some questions that I have. I had another one since we last talked as well. I have a big list that I'm going to get you, but I have one that I thought of right now, and I'd like to know to have you add to your list. I have seen reports coming out of Springfield where essential businesses have been restricting the sale of non-essential items.
Okay.
Meaning that Walmart no longer sells, I don't know, chocolate ice cream or whatever they choose not to sell. If that is true that is happening, I would like to know where those orders were coming from. Are people interpreting that as part of the governor's orders? Are retail establishments making that decision on their own? Or are they viewing that as something that Springfield has told them to do?
Go ahead, Steve.
Well, I was just going to say, we'll get to the bottom of that, and Ms. Calloway had her hand up. So.
Yes. Ms. Calloway.
To answer the question, it's my understanding that essential businesses in all of the orders, they were all written very similarly, are restricted to only those essential activities that are also listed in the order. So far as the essential business has elements that are outside that scope, they are only allowed to conduct those essential activities listed in the order.
Okay. Well then, Mr. Mayor, that sounds like that is a decision that we have left to you to make. And so that's your call, but I just offering my 2 cents here. If somebody's showing up to Walmart to buy some toilet paper, I'm okay with them buying a t-shirt or a pack of cigarettes while they're there. Your call to make, but just from my perspective.
Well, I emailed, I don't remember if I emailed or texted, but But I contacted city attorney today. We started off with our order of March the 24th being as close to Springfield's and Greene counties as possible. And they have made some changes. I noticed that Christian County came out with a change today. And of course, the governor had a change. So you will probably see a change coming from us to try to make everything as close as possible. And, but it's a matter of us getting together to do that. So hopefully that will happen tomorrow. So.
And then my one last question, and I don't know who this is even for. This may be for Chief or Amanda. I've actually heard that you might have a passion project along this lines. I believe I've been seeing some homeless folks in Ozark, pushing some carts around the park area, around that area. Is that true? Have I been seeing that? Are these folks new? Do we know anything about them? Is there something we need to be doing to get involved? What's up?
Ms. Calloway.
I'm not sure about your observation of the people, but there is a Christian County Homeless Alliance that I participate in, and I'm sure you would be welcome if you'd like to attend maybe a future virtual meeting or an actual meeting at that time when they hold it. But they do meet regularly to identify the issues of the homeless in Christian County. I participate so much that the municipal court and those actions can be beneficial to any of the homeless population, such as an alternative court program. And the real issue that it appears to affect Christian County is that borderline between somebody being on the verge of homelessness. But that's just my perspective from the meetings I've attended.
So I'm trying to be just as blunt as I can by be politically correct as I can. I have seen people pushing shopping carts around town that I've never seen before. Has some new populations moved into town? Is this somebody that was here and has just taken a bad turn? Is there something that either we as a city or should be doing, or can we get these folks some help if that's what's required here? What do we need to be doing? I don't want somebody pushing a cart around town when the weather's bad, it's raining outside, and there's a pandemic going on.
Right. So, I mean, make no mistake, we have homeless people in Ozark. Okay. Whether anyone sees them on a daily basis or not, we have homeless camps around Ozark also. It's not anywhere near what Springfield's problem is or anything like that. However, we do have this problem. How we address it is that all of our officers, we have a department resource list that we can give them, where we have listed all the different resources that they may use for housing, for job placement assistance, for substance abuse, for mental health, things like that. One of our earliest strategies that we typically will use anytime that we encounter someone new is that we will try to introduce them and engage them with rural and all the resources they have. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of local resources to help people who are in that type of predicament. So oftentimes it is reliant on them being able to get to Greene County for the true resources that they need are in Springfield. We do not have a lot of them down here. I don't know the specific ones that you're talking about. I do know of a few homeless individuals that we have that actually their camp is pretty close to the park. So that very easily could be who you're discussing. I don't know. I would encourage you to, you can let me know who it is and we can see if we can come up with a positive, proactive plan to try to assemble some help for these people. But unfortunately, it is it's not illegal to be homeless. So sometimes you have to understand that they don't welcome us if we go and try to provide them with these resources. They're living in a manner that they've chose to live.
Sure. And if that's the case, then by all means, I've noticed an increase lately, and I don't want anybody out there. I don't want to become one of those cities that all of a sudden becomes attractive, but I'm also not going to turn my back on any citizen that needs our help as well. And this is an area that I have zero knowledge or expertise in. And so if you or Ms. Calloway can kind of monitor this and advise us on things that we might need to do as we go forward, by all means, please do, because I don't know how to handle this situation.
Right. So, and like I talked about our resource list, actually last week, because last month in February, we have to update our resource lists for adults who may be in some type of crisis like you're talking about, and juveniles. So I know as of 30 days ago, we had the most up-to-date list of any resources that we could offer to these people or to anyone that we come into contact who may need them. But like I said, you know, the unfortunate thing is there is just not a lot of options for them to remain in Ozark and have the support system that they may really need. Oftentimes that we're very reliant on them being in Springfield for those resources.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, I'd like to hear a motion to adjourn. Ms. Calloway, if you would please stay on the line, so to speak. I've got a question for you after the meeting adjourns. So do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Alderman Smith, a second.
Second.
Mr. Poston. All right, all in favor, signify by signing off.
Hi.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right.
Everybody
Thank you
stay
all very
well.
much for your patience.
Before you ask your question,